Welcome to Massive Late Fee. And now your hosts, Mark and Carol. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Massive Late Fee. My name is Mark. With me as always is my girlfriend Carol. How you doing today, Carol?
Hey, what's up?
How much? It's been a good week here. It is January 24th, 1998.
It is.
We're going through 98. We're almost a month into
I know.
98.
I feel like we're like speeding through it somehow.
98.
Almost a month in.
Well, let me tell you who's been speeding.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to warn everybody. We don't typically talk about politics here. And sorry about talking about politics, everybody. But
better be sorry.
Some people hate it. But this looks like it might turn into some kind of story, so I figure we should mention it at least.
Okay.
Looks like President Clinton there's evidence that he has had an affair with a White House intern named Monica Lewinsky.
Are they seriously putting that in the newspaper?
Yeah. It says Clinton fights allegations. Outraged president denies affair. President Bill Clinton facing allegations of sexual misconduct and possible obstruction of justice emphatically denied allegations Wednesday that he carried on an 18-month sexual relationship with a White House intern in her 20s and then tried to persuade her to lie about it under oath.
Okay. So it sounds more like something that would be in a tabloid instead of a newspaper. And they're saying sexual misconduct. She's not saying he raped her or anything, right? Like, it's just they had an affair. Like, why is that sexual misconduct? I mean, like, yeah, okay, he's married, but
yeah, I mean that's what I've got so far.
It's weird.
It says, let's see, an unhappy Clinton appeared on television and radio late Wednesday afternoon to deny the allegations, which are reportedly under investigation by White House independent counsel Kenneth Starr. 2 R's. The charges are not true, and I haven't asked anybody to lie, Clinton said. Okay. So, that is going on with the President of the United States, Monica Lewinsky.
I don't see why we should care, do you?
Nope.
Like, what he does with his penis, as long as it doesn't affect, like, our day-to-day, I'm good. I don't care.
It just looks hot, though.
Good to know.
Anyway, so, let's see. Under heavy fire. Let me give you just some people in this whole thing here. Monica Lewinsky, obviously. The 24-year-old former White House intern remained at her mother's Watergate apartment Thursday. Her deposition is scheduled for today in the Paula Jones sexual harassment case against President Bill Clinton has been postponed indefinitely.
Paula Jones?
Yeah, that was somebody that he supposedly has sexually harassed, and I think that's what Kenneth Starr was actually investigating. Linda Tripp, 2 P's. The 48-year-old woman who sparked the firestorm by recording conversations with her coworker, Lewinsky, remained behind closed doors Thursday. The divorced mother of 2 and her motivation remain enigmas. So she recorded conversations that's how this got out. It was girl talk. And she was like, let me bring a tape recorder to girl talk.
That's ridiculous.
Isn't there a tape recorder in the game, girl talk?
There is. Okay. It's weird.
President Bill Clinton. Do you know who he is? The president denied in the strongest terms yet that he had an affair with Lewinsky or that he had told her to lie about it. The 51-year-old president said Americans have a right to ask questions and get honest answers about the allegations. Then there's Vernon Jordan Jr., the president's close friend, a 62-year-old New York lawyer and former Urban League president, said Lewinsky told him she never had an affair with Clinton. He flatly denied he ever told her to lie about it. Okay? And then we have Kenneth Starr, an independent counsel, a 51-year-old Texan. Oh, great. And former, no offense, Texas, and former federal judge promised Thursday he would move quickly to learn whether Clinton told Lewinsky to lie about an affair. Okay, so there you go. That is and President Clinton says he promises candor.
So the big issue here is that they're saying he told her to lie, not that he had an affair.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay, well, like, of course, any dude who's cheating on his wife is gonna, like, try to cover it up, and, like, I don't think that means ruin his whole life.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, it's no stranger to sexual scandal.
Yeah.
Right. But speaking of someone who's probably not having sex with a 24-year-old
Okay.
Washington intern, Ben Affleck. Afflecks.
I think he could be having sex with anybody he wants to.
Oh, yeah? But a 24-year-old Washington intern?
Why not?
I mean, probably. I'm just saying he's probably not.
Okay.
Affleck's strong,
Freudian slip?
sensitive manner wins him star-making roles. It's one thing when you suddenly become so hot in Hollywood that people start calling you the white Will Smith that Ben Affleck can probably handle. It's another thing when you're expected to be an expert on relationships of all sorts, romantic and platonic, gay and straight, just because you're turned in convincing performances in movies about love and friendship. Quote, presumably I should know about relationships because on the recent parts I've played, Affleck says, referring to roles in last spring's Chasing Amy, we watched that, and the recent Going All the Way.
I didn't see that.
Nope. But we all know that no one has a clue, is what he says. Still, it's easy to see why everyone would expect the 25-year-old to have all the answers. 6'2", broad-shouldered, and unthreateningly handsome. Affleck is one of those confident, yes, unassuming types who's as appealing to men as he is to women.
Do you find him appealing, Mark?
I mean, I do, yeah. I mean, not in a sexual way. Well, no, not in a sexual way. But no, he's like, yeah, he's charming. He's a charm.
Yeah, I guess. I would say that's true.
You know what else is not charm? Wow, you got a lot to say about that, huh? You seem oddly closed-mouthed about Ben Affleck. I wouldn't have even noticed it had you not done the tiny little drop-in where you'd want to be non-committal about it. You got some thoughts about Ben Affleck that you don't want to talk about?
No.
All right. Tomorrow's
hot, but I don't mind talking about that.
Tomorrow's news haunts nice guy. Unlike the character he plays on Early Edition, Kyle Chandler knows exactly what he's going to do if he got a copy of tomorrow's newspaper today. You heard of this show, Early Edition?
No.
The premise of this show is this dude gets the newspaper a day in advance.
Interesting.
And everything that happens in the paper happens in real life, so he can prevent it or whatever, right? Just like you, I'd go down to the 7-Eleven and load up on those lottery tickets. Chandler says, with a trace of Georgia good old boyhood lingering in his voice. So he probably said it like, well, just like you, I'd go down to the 7-Eleven.
Oh, wow.
I'd pick up a powerful thirst with a big gulp. And I'd probably have a beer while I was doing it. That's not quite the right note for a TV series, especially, no shit. Here's my premise for a TV show. Guy sees the future and doesn't save anybody, but makes himself really rich.
Right? I mean, that could be like, day one, and then day two he saves people.
Right. An ex-stockbroker, Gary Hobson, Chandler finds that knowing tomorrow's headlines today is a curse, not a cash-in. His foreknowledge cost him his marriage and career, yet day after day, it compels him to intervene against disasters about to befall his fellow human beings.
Wow.
Chandler, who played a really nice guy in ABC's short-lived Home Front, came to Early Edition last season to play a really, really nice guy.
I wonder how knowing the future could cost somebody their career and their marriage. It seems like it would do nothing but help you.
Right.
It's weird.
There wasn't an article like it's Hobson's wife's birthday tomorrow. Don't forget. So he says, this season we've worked it out that Gary really didn't want this thing and it's ruined his life.
Wow.
Now he's somewhat resigned, he says. As an actor, Chandler says he ignores the show's spiritual dimension and the larger questions the paper evokes.
Interesting.
That is, I certainly don't think the angels or God having a hand in it, he says. It's weird because I haven't watched Early Edition, although I have heard of it. But I don't. Yeah, that's one thing that they don't explain it, apparently. Like, where this newspaper comes from, it's just completely unexplained.
Oh, weird.
So, yeah.
Must be God.
Obviously, people would have theories about it. He says he doesn't think so.
But did he write the show?
No.
So, again, I say, must be God.
He's just a dumb actor. Just read his lines. Do what the director says, do what the writer says, and shut up.
I mean, it's got to be
Kyle Chandler, whoever you are.
It's got to be like God or aliens or something. What?
The two solutions. God or aliens or something.
Well, where else is the future going to come from?
Or how did this water get turned into wine? I don't know. It was God or aliens or something.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what St. Peter said. Anyway. So speaking of God or aliens or something, we saw a movie.
Oh, geez. This movie.
Amistad. Now, I was tricked into seeing this movie by Carol.
What?
Because based on the title, I thought this was about Arnold Schwarzenegger claiming paternity over his son.
What in the actual fuck are you talking
about? Think about the title. The title is Amistad.
What is wrong with you?
Amistad.
Like, in all seriousness, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Come on. I thought about that when I saw the title of the movie. No, but you want to get real sick, Carol?
No.
Okay, then fine. I won't say it.
Go ahead. What?
In Spanish, Amistad means friendship.
Oh, wow.
So their slave ship, where they brutalized people, was called friendship.
Well, they didn't brutalize them as much as they did on that first ship.
I guess not, but I mean,
isn't that the ship where they threw them off with a
yeah,
rock?
You're right. I guess they were the nice slavers.
Oh, jeez.
What stand-up Spanish guys? Holy fuck.
Yeah, friendship is a very fucked up name for that.
So, Amistad. Carol.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about Amistad? What did you think? Did you like it?
This movie has changed my opinion about Steven Spielberg.
Oh, you don't like his movies anymore?
Like, I feel like they should address this movie on Dawson's Creek. I want to hear Dawson's take on this bullshit.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a fantastic movie, honestly. It's very well done. Interesting story. Turns out it's, at least mostly true. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
They play a little fast and loose with some of the history.
Well, of course.
I'm a big history fan, so if you don't like history, just tune out when I'm talking and listen to what Carol has to say about the movie.
But the very end of the movie, pissed me off so bad that, I want to,
yes,
find Spielberg and, yell at him at least. Maybe punch him in the face.
Also, one of those things that apparently probably isn't true.
That just makes it even worse.
So it's there are rumors that the guy became a slave guy when he went back to Africa.
The guy.
Yeah, what's his name? The actor's name. I wrote some names down.
Did you?
Because I wasn't going to get names right. But his name is Jimon Honsu.
Okay, that's harder to say than the actual name of the guy in the movie.
Yeah, can you remember his name?
No. I'm sitting here trying to, and it's pissing me off.
Started with a C.
Yeah.
It was like Sin
something.
Sin City.
I don't know.
Charles Sin City. He's he's the main dude, the one that breaks out and saves everybody.
Yeah.
The guy that killed a lion with a rock.
The main character of our movie.
Yes. Played by Jimon Hansu.
But yeah, supposedly this guy...
It's like Cinquiz?
What?
I don't know. I wrote down spelling of it, but I don't. It's Cinque, but I don't know how you would pronounce that. Cinque, but that's
we just saw this movie. Why
that's
can't
not
we think
how they said it.
Sinke.
Sinke.
Sinke. CK. Sinke or CK?
CK.
CK.
Okay.
Something like that. Sinke or CK?
All right.
All right.
Anyway, that's him.
CK.
So there's rumor that he became a slave dude back in Sierra Leone, but that's also that's like highly. There's not a lot of evidence of any of that shit, so very difficult to know.
So, like, what did you do? Go to the library and look up shit about Amistad? Like, how do you have all this information?
Yeah, so I got a couple books. This is based on a 1987 novel. I read the novel, and I read a couple books about the history of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this period of the other thing too is I guess we should, if you haven't seen the movie, I mean it's a very 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 good movie.
Yeah, go see the movie.
It's like 2.5 hours long, but it doesn't feel like it.
No.
It's Spielberg. It's very good, but it's sad. So I mean, it's about slavery.
I'm angry at Spielberg about how sad it is.
It's not Schindler's List. I don't think it's quite as powerful as Schindler's List. You know, Spielberg has more of a personal connection to the Holocaust and Schindler's List than he would this subject. Not that he doesn't do a good job of trying to convey it. I think that this movie is brutal at times, but I do believe that there's I don't want to say a standoffishness, but we get separation. Schindler's List is very visceral and in your face about everything going on.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the information that we get about the fate of many of these slaves comes from testimony, and it's heard secondhand, and we see flashes of it. So the technique gives it a separation as opposed to us experiencing it as it happens.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's done on purpose to make this a little more palatable, a little bit easier for people, so it's not so gut-wrenching. And I don't know if part of it is because, like I said, I think Spielberg being a Jew and knowing people who survived the Holocaust, and I think he had family members, but I don't remember. But, you know, being in that community, obviously, you know, gets more in the dirt with that movie, I think, than he does this movie. Okay. This movie's a lot of polish, and there's a lot of hard stuff in here, but I feel like there's a pane of glass between us and what's going on.
Interesting. Well, I mean, there's a lot of, like you said, we see it in flashes, but like even like the beginning of the movie, the stuff happening on the ship, there's a storm going on. Mm-hmm. And it's literally in flashes of lightning, like yes. breaking everything up, making it so hard to see what's going on, making it a little more confusing and chaotic, mm-hmm. which also, I think, saved us from feeling like it was real or like it was as monstrous, the brutality and stuff. Right.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, too. The cinematography is not something that I talk about a ton when we talk about stuff, but I can't pronounce his name, but it's... Janusz, I think, Kaminski. He did the cinematography for this movie. He does the cinematography for most of Steven Spielberg's movies. It has for many years. And I like the way that a lot of the cinematography is very good. I like the way they play with with the lightning in some of the scenes. In some of the other scenes, though, it's the beginning. I think when he's first escaping, I think that's good, and I think they use some of it, like you said, to hide some of the brutality. But there are other times when we're playing with the lightning where it's like, I'd rather know what's going on.
Yeah, it was a little irritating.
The other thing I noticed that he did, the cinematographer Kaminsky, that he does a lot, and I don't get it, but it's the aesthetic that apparently he and Spielberg like a lot, is if you look at the windows, like in the courtroom scene, the Supreme Court scene at the end, the windows are all kind of lit up, they're all blown out with like a lot of light. Like you look at the window and it's very lit and everything. Okay. Like there's a hot light like right outside the window, and they do that a lot with windows and stuff like that when they're in different scenes. I've noticed movies of his that they've worked on together, and that it's okay, but I don't know that it throws me off a little bit whenever I see it because it's I notice it when I see it.
Interesting.
But anyway, for the most part, the cinematography is very good. It's Spielberg, so obviously he got some of the best in the business for each of the departments.
Right. And
costuming. It's a period piece, so costuming, makeup, all that stuff. It's all top notch. It's all great. It's going to get nominated for Oscars at the Academy Award in all those categories. I don't know if it'll win or not, but it'll get nominated for all those categories. I thought it was very good. So history-wise, let me get the history stuff out of the way first, I guess. Since ostensibly we do mostly film review.
I had no idea that you'd made this such a research project. That's impressive.
Well, I knew some of this stuff already.
Did you?
But, so the biggest thing to me, and Spielberg seems to like these stories, Schindler's List being an example of, like, little guys or seemingly little guys making big moves in history. Mm-hmm. Things happening because of a group of or one or two ordinary people, doing something and changing the world kind of thing. This case, the Amistad case that actually existed, in this movie, it's conceptualized as a kind of a turning point or something pushing the United States closer to civil war and stuff like that, or that it's a big thing for the abolitionist movement. It wasn't. It was mostly just a case about property. The real crux of the case was, do these slaves belong to Queen Elizabeth? Do they belong to these dudes that say they bought them? Or are they free because they were stolen illegally from Africa? Because after 1808, the transatlantic slave trade was outlawed.
So I have a question, though. Why the United States at all? Like, the ship was by Cuba. Mm-hmm. They were taken to Cuba. And it's the Queen of Spain who's interested. We didn't have anything to do with the transportation or purchase or any of it. Why'd they end up being, at the United States courts? That doesn't make sense to me.
So here's the thing that's not explained in the movie that I came upon in my research for this movie. Even though the transatlantic slave trade was outlawed in 1808, even during this time, this movie takes place in 1839, even during this time period, there was still people going to all that stuff about the slave fortress and everything, and taking people from Sierra Leone and stuff like that. That all did happen. That was stuff that definitely. I mean, this is a true story, and they were obviously stolen. But this is stuff that did happen. But the United States really tried to crack down on this, and so did Great Britain. Great Britain had outlawed slavery some 80 years prior to this. And because they're shown blowing up the fortress and everything when they find it. And they really did they outlawed slavery in all their territories, and not that they're the greatest people in the world or whatever, but they did. And the Royal Navy really did try to crack down on importation of slaves and all this stuff. And I think Sierra Leone was a British protectorate at the time. And so what happened was, in reality, is they got taken, on that first ship, the Kodo or whatever, and then they got transported to Amistad because there were just too many slaves, and they had to get rid of some of them. They did kill some of them. They had to get rid of some others. And they kind of sold them to these other slavers on this boat. And they were coming to Cuba, which is close to the United States.
Right.
And the United States kept patrols all around the waters, for the U.S. Navy did. The U.S. Navy found this ship. After the revolt, the U.S. Navy found the Amistad. And they took everyone on board. They saw all the death and everything. They put the Africans into chains, and they took them to Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
So that jail where we first see them apparently was Connecticut.
It sure looked like it was not the United States.
Sure did not look like Connecticut, but apparently it was. I mean, apparently it was supposed to be, because that's where they were taken. They were taken to Connecticut, and as this, we found these people, this property or whatever on this boat. And that's why they were trying to, because the boat was near Connecticut waters.
Well, that makes a lot more sense.
So I think that they just piloted them around.
I thought it was just the United States being like, we're the boss of everybody as usual. But
they do mention about Queen Elizabeth II, played by an actress, Anna Paquin, who was 11 years old at the time. And that's another Queen Isabella II of Spain is quite an interesting figure. She became queen at 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then eventually she had to abdicate the throne because of revolution and stuff like that. But yeah, she was an interesting, they could make a whole movie about her reign.
It's crazy. Yeah, it seemed kind of crazy to me, that she was so invested in obtaining these slaves. She obviously didn't need anything.
No, it was more. I think it was more of her consorts too, because when you're that young, you have consorts to the throne, advisors that kind of shape you, and you could see him walking around, and so she's reading it, but it's he wrote it. The letter to the United States. But yeah, she was like a child with a toy, that the United States got, and she wanted compensation or whatever for it, right?
Right.
Because that's what because slavery was legal in Spain at the time as well. They were both, the United States and Spain were slave nations. The other thing that they got wrong about, so like I was saying, that this wasn't a big thing for slavery, really. It was just a property rights, I mean, not just, because these are human beings, but it was a property rights issue that eventually, spoilers, they come out on the correct side of history on and let these people go, because the United States really did, even though they didn't necessarily turn a blind eye, even though this shit was happening, if slaves got in, it's not like they were like, they weren't putting all their resources into ferreting it out. But when they found it, I mean, they did at least try to make sure that the ban on the transatlantic slave trade was kept in place. The harbors were closed. You couldn't bring slaves into the harbors. You had to do it sneakily, But the other thing, too, is they also show Martin Van Buren, old Kinderhook himself. He was from Kinderhook, New York. Martin Van Buren campaigning for president. They didn't campaign for president back then.
Oh,
it was considered beneath a candidate to actively go out. They show him on a train tour and shit like that and everything, wanting to be president and stuff. I think they did that mostly just to kind of get that point out there that he did want to win re-election against William Henry Harrison, which he didn't. But no, they didn't actively campaign like that. They show him kissing babies and stuff like that. That would have been considered, going out and begging people for the vote during that time period was considered beneath people.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they didn't have presidential campaigns like that back then.
I think they might have also been trying to explain why he was not involved hardly at all in what was going on.
True. Yep, that's definitely true.
I guess it's just an excuse then for him not caring.
Yeah. So they get, it's so funny to me because Morgan Freeman, Anthony Hopkins, they get top billing in this movie. And
Above Matthew McConaughey?
And they might be, they're great actors, no doubt. This is no, slight to them or anything, but they might be in the movie the least. Like, the Dimon Hansu and Matthew McConaughey are, the two big ones.
Right.
In the movie. But yeah, Anthony Hopkins, an Englishman playing an American president, which is whatever. I mean, he played Nixon too a few years ago, but he was fine. But it's so funny to me because Anthony Hopkins is a fantastic actor, but dude cannot do anything but his natural Welsh accent.
That's true.
He hit it as much as he could, but John Quincy Adams was from Braintree, Massachusetts. I mean, he would have sounded like fucking Will Hunting.
I doubt that.
Not quite, not like Southie, but not quite that. But not quite Kennedy either. I don't even think as eloquent of a accent as Kennedy's. I think somewhere between the two. Okay. But yeah, he would have absolutely had a Massachusetts accent. Not the Welsh accent that he's got in the movie. But that's the other thing I found fascinating about this on a history-wise. John Quincy Adams, just a fascinating figure in U.S. history. President, the first president who was related to a previous president, his father, John Adams, and like his father, only served one term, was defeated in his reelection. The only president to, after he was defeated, return to Congress.
Oh, wow.
He went back and was in Congress again. They showed him sleeping in Congress.
Yeah, I remember that.
The beginning of the movie. And then he argued this case before the Supreme Court of the United States. It's a very interesting trajectory.
Yeah, you'd think that presidents would be tired and want to retire.
Well, he was one of those people that, the politics was like his life.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad was one of the founders of the country, and he just grew up in that, and it was just part of him. But apparently he also liked growing flowers too, which I did not know about him.
That was interesting.
But he did a great job, and Morgan Freeman did a great job as one of the abolitionists who was trying to free these Africans. I keep hesitating to call them slaves because technically they were never in slavery. I mean, they were put in bondage.
They were kidnapped.
They were kidnapped, put in bondage, taken to jail, and then eventually freed. But they were never slaves.
They were prisoners
per se. Yeah, they were trying to make them slaves. They were trying to sell them into slavery, but they didn't. So, which is good. But yeah, so that's kind of what I have to say as far as the history side of things goes. Like I said, they got a lot right. They got some wrong, but that's, I suppose, to be expected with a historical, movie like this.
Yeah, well, and like you said too, that they speculated. I mean, they said flat out in the movie that when he finally gets back, that his village was destroyed and his family was gone.
Yeah,
and you said that's not true,
right?
So, yeah, they fucked around with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't see the point in that. I mean, that was the last thing they did in the movie. Why take this 2.5 hour long journey?
Right.
And it's ending on this triumphant note and just squash it.
I don't know. I don't understand. Like, did he not want it to be hopeful? Did he want it to be like, oh yeah, and it's still awful. Like everything about what happened is still awful or whatever. Did they hear about the rumors about him becoming a slave trader, and they were like, well, we don't want to do that. But what if his family got sold into slavery? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I don't know exactly. I can't tell you the reason. I think, if I remember correctly, it was in the book. But, obviously the book's, not 100% accurate either.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Well, I guess maybe they were just sticking to the story of the book then.
Pete Postlethwaite was in there as the DA. He didn't get a lot of screen time, but shout out to him from that one Jurassic Park movie that we saw. And I like him. He's good. He was also in that Usual Suspects movie. Mm-hmm. He's a good actor. And then the other guy I wanted to call out real quick it's another name that's going to be very hard for me to pronounce. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Wow.
He was the
That is a hell of a name.
He was the sailor who translated for them.
Okay. Oh yeah, he did a really good job too.
Translated Mindy. Yeah, I wanted to call him out too. Believe it's his screen debut. So I wanted to call. I think he did a great job. Not necessarily Denzel Washington in Glory, because I don't know if he's going to get nominated for an Oscar or anything like that. But it reminds me a bit of that performance because he was understated in the movie, but what he did in his reactions to translating and what the guy's saying, Sing-K's saying, and everything, it's all very subtle, but it added so much depth to what was going on. So I just think he did a great job with a lot of nonverbal stuff.
There was a lot of stuff going on in the court after they had first of all, they didn't even have a translator for the longest time, which just seems like terrible. But they finally found this guy who spoke Mendi, which it took them a while to even figure out what language they needed.
Right.
And then they just learned how to count to 10 and walked around counting till 10 until somebody responded. Like that's
actually true.
Weird.
Too. That's actually a thing that really happened too. But the lawyer wasn't the one who did it. One of the abolitionists did.
Okay.
But and he just walked around the harbor just counting in those numbers until somebody recognized it, and it was a sailor who was from Sierra Leone, was free and everything. And he started talking to him because he recognized his native language. But they really did that.
Well, I mean, and that's awesome that somebody had the thought to do that, because certainly the court wasn't. Mm-hmm. It really bothered me that they only used the translator in the courtroom when they wanted to.
Yes.
I mean, I realize it's a different time, but today, I would hope that they would translate everything going on so that, people would know what, they're talking about. I just thought, it was terrible that the only thing they got translated was, questions they wanted them to answer. They have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I also didn't find it very believable because they didn't have a ton of interaction with people speaking English, that he picked up, just knew how to say, give us free.
Right.
How do you learn that? Or the guy with the Bible. Mostly he was just looking at the pictures, but he's like, oh, I'm starting to understand it.
And he does pick up the story it completely.
Yeah.
Based on the pictures alone.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's and he knew that was an afterlife and everything. I thought that was that was a captivating scene.
It did.
It was very interesting.
It felt good to watch it. It made me smile, but it just thinking about it later seems very unrealistic.
Yeah, for sure. But apparently they Spielberg had them learn the actual African language of Mende.
Okay.
Which is funny to me.
Why?
Because I guess I get it or whatever, but because it plays an important role in the movie. But do you really expect somebody to stand up in the middle of the theater and be like, "That's not Mendi," and then just storm out?
No, but if somebody does speak Mendi, they'll be super impressed.
Yeah, I guess that's true. What's his name? I almost called him John Wilkes Booth, but it's Matthew McConaughey. He kind of looks a little bit like that. Matthew McConaughey in the movie. He plays Roger Sherman. I can't remember his last name.
I don't know either.
Bannister or something like that. But he's a grandson of Roger Sherman, who is the only man in American history to sign all 4 of America's founding documents.
Oh, interesting.
He signed the Declaration of Independence. He signed the Articles of it's for the Continental Congress, the formation of the Continental Congress, the Articles of Formation, I think they call them. He signed those 2. He signed the Articles of Confederation after the American Revolution, and he signed the Constitution. So he's the only one to sign all 4.
Very
He
cool.
was also from Connecticut. He was a cobbler. But yeah, so interesting stuff there to me. And a real person. He was older though. He wasn't like McConaughey is portrayed like, as his character is portrayed like, I'm young, I'm inexperienced and stuff like that. He was like 41 or whatever. He was a fairly established lawyer. But yeah, I mean, he did. He fought for their freedom, and yeah, one scene I liked. I know we didn't talk a ton about the nitty gritty of the filmmaking, but I mean, it's Spielberg. What am I going to say? You know what I mean? Like, some people are just born to make movies,
Right.
Like, some people are just they just have that eye, and Spielberg does. There's not much to say about it, but I did like Anthony Hopkins as John Quincy Adams is when he's giving this speech to the Supreme Court. He's talking about how that when the situation is hopeless, the Mende people, they call to their ancestors, and everything like that. And as he's saying this, like out of focus, but I pointed this out in the theater when we were watching this, out of focus, but in the background over his left shoulder is a portrait of John Adams, his ancestor.
That was cool.
And Adams is one of my favorite founding fathers, so that, that kind of, it was a little extra for me, too. So.
I love that you have a favorite founding father. That just says so much about you as a person.
Whatever. But anyway, it's a great movie. Very emotional. There were some very tough parts to watch.
Yes. Yeah, there was a lot of brutality.
You turned away at some of the stuff.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't want to see it. I don't have to relive that. And just like Schindler's List, it's a great movie. I will never ever watch it again.
Yeah. And like I said, it's one of those ones where it shows the brutality, but I do think there is a bit of a separation there. It almost feels kind of sanitized.
Yeah, a little.
But a great movie though. I liked it.
You know what it reminded me of though? I heard this quote recently, and I can't remember where I heard it. I think it might have been in a book, but they found carved in Auschwitz in the wall, if there is a God, he owes me an apology.
Oh yeah.
Kind of reminded me of that. It's like, we sit here in our like happy American life with all the privileges and everything, and then you look back at history and see these terrible things that happen to people. Oh yeah. And it's frightening. I mean, like, it doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem like it could happen, but it did.
Yeah. It reminds me of the story that you just told me reminds me of one of the one of the epigraphs, they call it. It's a little blurb basically at the beginning of a book or a chapter from William Styron's Sophie's Choice. Okay. It says it's a excerpt or whatever, so it kind of starts in the middle, but it says but Auschwitz itself remains inexplicable. The most comprehensive statement on Auschwitz ever uttered wasn't a statement at all, but a question. The query, tell me, at Auschwitz, where was God? The answer, where was man? Yeah. But yeah, so, that it reminded me of that. But yeah, it's it's another one of those things where it's we talk about the Holocaust, the eradication of the systemic extinction or murder of the Native American people, and slavery. I mean, those are kind of like the big three human tragedies. Yeah, like the big three, and there might be more that I'm not thinking of. But at least in recent history, those are like the big three just like horrible stains on humanity.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure like back in Egyptian times and stuff, like there was a lot of stuff that went on too.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of. Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of brutality all throughout history, but
we're not as familiar with it.
Yeah, and I mean those three are just the two of them are American. Slavery and the systemic extinction of the Native Americans.
That's what sucks when you like stop and think about the fact that like we're here in this country because of all these terrible things that happen to other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that is it. It's not cool. No. But, I mean, and we're also, the United States is not the only country with blood on its hands. I mean, we want to go to the United Kingdom and see all the horrifying things they did throughout the entire world for a long time. I mean,
right.
Theirs might not be as publicized, but it's also really bad.
But, I mean, as painful as it is, it's good that we're looking back on this stuff because we got to learn from it. Make sure it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. But, yeah, a great movie. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've got to say about it.
So you can write us at latefee1994@AOL.com.
Mm-hmm.
Check out our website at www.retrolatefee.com.
Yep.
And share the tapes with your friends.
Yeah, and if you go see this movie, don't get fooled. It is not an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie about a paternity test. Amistad!
Oh my goodness.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.